I'm Kaden Mulrooney, your broadcast editor for this conference, and welcome to your KUNA 3 broadcast. We have lots of great stories, interviews, and highlights that recap our entire virtual conference. Right after the candidate meeting, we had our Virtual World Expo, a virtual venue for delegations to show off the countries they are representing and for KUNA ambassadors to learn new things about the world in preparation for their debates. Ambassadors learned about countries all over the world, including Spain, Bangladesh, Thailand, Scotland, Malaysia, the United Arab Emirates, and so many more. Now on to Thursday, when the conference really started to get into gear. We asked KUNA ambassadors to show off their virtual KUNA outfits, whether they were in full business wear or wearing business on the top with pajamas on the bottom. And from what we can tell from your photos, you all looked great. While the conference was going on, the Secretariat, ICJ, Security Council, and debate committees got to work during their first meetings of the conference. Media delegates Annie Redden and Margie Walters got the chance to talk to representatives from each of the special program areas to get an idea of what a day in the life looks like for each of those areas.
A day in the life of my program is, to say the least, busy, but I feel like we can all say that. In the Secretariat and NGO program, a day in the life, if you are a USG, you are giving testimonies, you are acting basically as my cabinet in you're experts in different fields and departments. Mm-hmm. Basically, a day in the life is being an expert on different resolutions and your NGOs and your departments. So really knowing resolutions front to back and focusing on a specific field. So we have a Department of Health, Department of Safety. So knowing your resolution and knowing what you're representing, for sure.
Has it being virtual changed your program a lot?
Yes, it has changed our program. We actually have meetings back to back starting at 12:30, I believe. And normally at the conference, we have meetings into fun time. It goes on for a very long time because it's like an elimination round. So our NGOs, one in favor and one opposing for a resolution. Each resolution, they sit down with one of our USGs, and our USG basically picks who has been the most prepared and who should advance to me. And then we have a meeting. So it's like working your way up the pyramid, and then I take one NGO with me, and we go to the Secretary General, and there's a meeting there. So those meetings, it's like a big bracket normally. And when we're at the conference, it has to get wrapped up in about half the time because we have people in school, we have mandatory fun time starting, and so the schedule is a lot more rigid. So we're having to learn how to have these meetings quick and keep them informative so that our program still retains its quality.
All right, so can you walk us through a day in Security Council?
Sure thing, I can try to.
Sorry.
So difficult, but I will try. I'm gonna try and do it without the agenda. So we a lot of Security Council comes from the preparation. So I guess you could count that as kind of part of the day, just like the waking up portion, I guess. But first thing we did when we woke up was just kind of go over the norms and the debate rules. And then a lot of it was dominated by just regular debate where we were presenting our own resolutions. So just presenting is a big part of it, and kind of doing pro con, asking a lot of questions was just a big part of it. Trying to just slip away for a bit and write your own resolution is also a big part of it. So I'd say those are the two biggest things. And then breakout rooms, just talking with them was a lot of fun. We actually just kind of skipped lunch and just talk with each other because it was so much fun. So that's kind of what we did. That was a lot, but that's kind of what the day was.
Yeah.
Like. So yeah.
Well, you guys do a lot in there. So. Okay. So what are you currently working on? Or what will you be working on tomorrow?
Right. So we actually just finished up. We have 4 main topics that we've been covering just throughout this whole thing. So there's the environmental kind of regulations and whatnot. So that was one thing. There was the crisis scenario, which was really fun, and we ended up just finishing that. So we actually finished both the environmental and the crisis scenario. And then tomorrow we're covering infectious diseases, and then we're also going over food security. And so I wrote a resolution on infectious diseases that was managing biological weapon stock, I think, in the world. So there's a lot of interesting stuff we're going to do. But the first thing tomorrow is the infectious diseases kind of category, I guess. So.
All right, that's pretty cool. that was actually my next question, was which proposals you've written.
Oh, so yeah, that was basically, I've written a proposal just trying to manage like, you know, illegal biological weapons, like weapon stock, which is throughout the world, and making sure that no state-sponsored or independent terrorism can occur. So that's kind of what I focus on, and I guess I'll get to present that tomorrow. So yeah.
But similarly to the Supreme Court, you are on a team of up to 3 advocates, and you are assigned a case and you argue it. You have 15 minutes of speaking time. There's, if you're the applicant, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. So you go in, you start talking, and then pretty much immediately the justices will start asking you questions. And I see Lily and Gavin have gone on, but it's somewhat terrifying, but you know, it's okay. So watching it especially can be fun. I know my first time watching a case, I was like, oh my goodness, those people must be absolutely terrified, but it's a lot of fun. It's really fast paced, and yeah.
So how would you say that this like kind of virtual setting in ICJ is different than like the in-person? Like what are its advantages, disadvantages, just like complete changes, things that stay the same, anything like that?
And I think the hardest part about this virtual setting is the questioning, because you're being interrupted and because Wi-Fi is just finicky all the time. Sometimes people cut out and sometimes you don't realize that they've interrupted you. But all of the justices and the advocates know that, and you know, it was wonderful that they could just pause for a minute, stop the time even, and just repeat their questions. So that from my end was probably the most challenging part, was, you know, just trying to figure out I could make sure that I got all the questions answered.
The justice type perspective is definitely different, gaveling in with like a pencil just to end sessions. It's a little less like intimidating, I think, in some ways. It's not like a big courthouse where everybody's like staring at you and it's really like creepy quiet. But obviously online has its own challenges where it's harder to answer questions when you aren't just hearing a gavel. You have to just wait until someone like buzzes in and goes counsel and starts rambling off a question.
Yeah, not to flex or anything, but I've only done Supreme Court and ICJ in a virtual setting. So I'm kind of a pro, like, I mean, yeah. But one difference is I've served both as an advocate or an attorney and as justice. And from what I can tell, just in my experience with virtual settings, the roles and responsibilities are pretty much the same, slightly different because you have to take into account the virtual setting. But overall, this change in format has been really successful, especially for the ICJ program.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Gavin on this one. I am a sophomore and I've only done this virtually. And I'm curious to see what it's like in person. I'm honestly really comfortable. I have my setup and my notes and I just get in my zone. I have experienced a lot of Wi-Fi breaking up, but I think it's something to sacrifice for being comfortable.
Louise and Lauren Pappalardo, who couldn't make it today, and we did our very first ICJ case together, and then Louise joined us for Supreme Court and is back with us for ICJ. And having that core group, having your team is 100% the most rewarding part of all of it. They're there to answer a question if you freeze. They're there to tell you what you can do better next time. And sometimes they might not update the Google Doc until 4 days before the conference, but you love them and they're absolutely brilliant, and they'll write down so many different things than you could ever think of. So my number one piece of advice is like find some other person, literally just one person.
We also want to give a shout out to some of the amazing resolutions we were able to hear and debate throughout the conference. Resolutions are the backbone of any good KUNA conference, and you all did spectacular.
Hi, this is Eden and LAILAH from Assumption High School, and they'll be presenting their bill. So can you guys just go over like a little overview of what your bill and what it is trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so we're representing Austria, and in Austria, the biggest tourist economy is in and through skiing. That's how they get all of their tourists, which brings in a lot of money, obviously. So we did a lot of research into what the Austrian people are most concerned with in the environment, and they were really concerned with deforestation. And I did some reading and some searching, and it showed that a lot of the deforestation that's occurring in Austria is due to ski slopes. Because when you keep skiing down the same slopes, I mean, you can crash into a tree. It hurts the trees that are trying to grow there, just with the constant skiing there. So that was the biggest thing, is just trying to help that and kind of stop or slow down the deforestation in that way.
In what ways does your bill try to accomplish that?
Our bill really tries to accomplish it by focusing on, instead of completely stopping all production of ski slopes, kind of for every certain amount of trees removed, we would replant new trees in national parks, public areas, just anywhere where we think the trees would be generally safe and able to grow and have like a long withstanding healthy life. Because deforestation, like Eden said, is a very big problem, and not just in Austria, but in the world at the moment. And we're really just trying to combat and fight that in small ways to lead to a bigger change.
Can you guys go over some of the pros and cons that were discussed during the debate?
So leading in Austria, hopefully our goal is to help encourage other countries to do the same, to put into place a fine if people are not planting the trees or not taking care of them. And just that's the way that we're going to help reinforce this bill. So I think that's a really big pro, is just leading an example for other people.
Yeah, a con that was addressed was not having a global impact, and another one was, how are we going to ensure that these trees would be taken care of after they were planted? And as for a global impact, I'd say any effort that we could make to replant these trees in any country at any size that we can is really important, and it really sets an example for other countries or even more local areas like cities for them to go out and make that change. And as for, ensuring that these trees would be healthy, we would utilize the use of already in place park rangers, environmental volunteers, and just anyone who really wants to help out on the issue and is willing to do so.
All right, thank you so much. Do you have any final words to say about your bill?
I don't know, save the trees.
After the last General Assembly on Wednesday, Media Delegate Katie Hammond and I sat down with all 6 of our PO candidates to talk about their experience with candidacy in virtual KUNA.
I've never been a candidate before, so this is a fun new experience for me. I really enjoy being able to post different stuff on social media. Because I think there are a lot of different interactive things you can do, especially leading up to the conference. I always did polls and stuff, but what really sucks is I can't talk to people face to face. So I can't go up and say hi, my name's Ella, it's nice to meet you, which I really really sucks. But I feel there are silver linings that kind of make it better.
Conference is going to be really hard. It was going to be really hard to campaign because everything's online and I don't know how to do that. But everything just has been so positive, and I've gotten so many positive messages from people, and just people being all supportive and really happy. And I thought that really helped with my my campaign experience, just made me feel good and making KUNA a lot more enjoyable. So
I agree with the both of them. I think that there definitely is a barrier that is put in place because we're not in person, and it's a lot harder to carry conversations over text and stuff like that than it is to legitimately have a conversation with someone in person, face to face, and get to see their whole body instead of just talking to someone through a screen. But on that note, like there's a lot more opportunity, I feel like, with like, instead of having like the trifolds, we have candidate pages, and like being able to make our own social media accounts to promote. Like we've never really done that in the past. And I think I really liked having the social media accounts. And it was a lot easier to interact with the other candidates, and like we made group chats. It's been a really good experience so far.
The preparation process was, for my school at least, there were 3 candidates for manual that wanted to run. So I was running against them. What I did was I messaged everyone in my club. You know, I tried to, because I didn't have any platforms. I wanted to ask them what they thought my platform should be. So I ended up coming to the 3 that I have, and it was a combination of everyone's choices. And I think that really helped propel me to win manual stage. And you know, I've been doing some public speaking practice. I've been, you know, reciting some things to myself or to my parents, just to, you know, get back into the mood of public speaking to prepare me for this candidate process. But yeah, it's been really exciting and really tough, and I'm almost there. So I'm excited.
Everyone else, but and then I made my Instagram, and I started with that, and I started to reach out to people that I knew would be at virtual KUNA or the KUNA 3, and especially people that I know personally. And I was like, hey, I'm running. And then a couple of weeks ago, actually last week when the resolution book came out, I started to take notes. I did a lot of research on every resolution that I could, just so I knew I was prepared. And while doing all of that, I also tried to interact with everyone as much as I could, especially through my story. And one really cool thing that I thought of, I think over the weekend, was making a KUNA playlist where everyone could put in their ideas for songs, and I compiled them into one big Spotify playlist.
Okay, so I come from a pretty small delegation, so the process of like me getting picked to run as candidate for my school wasn't like as hard as like Iman's was, but I feel like with like my small delegation, I feel like we're so much closer, and like the support I've got and like the help I've gotten from them with this, like they've helped me with my speeches and my platforms, and have listened to me rant about like, should I say this word here or this word here?
Talent show, for sure. Best part.
Definitely silent disco.
I would agree. I love silent disco. When they first like started doing it with like the first KYA that they installed it in, I didn't think I was gonna like it going in, but honestly, I kind of liked it better than the normal dances.
My favorite part is the debates that are taken to the General Assembly. So it's literally in front of the entire conference. You just have to stare at like every single person looking at you. I've never actually been in that position, but I can only imagine how like exhilarating that would be.
I think that probably the thing that I miss the most is, like I've said like a billion times during this, just meeting people and talking to people.
Well, that about wraps up KUNA 3 2021. It definitely was different, but everyone pushed through in order to make this a great conference. Hopefully by next year, we'll be able to have an in-person conference. For the Media Corps, I'm your broadcast editor, Kaden Mulroney, and on behalf of all of the media delegates, we hope you had an amazing conference.